What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video here on the Samurai Radio Sports Network, and today we're going to be talking about the second episode of Walk, Resign, or Trade, and it's probably the main reason why you clicked on the video because the topic is a hot commodity along with Kiko Alonso, and this one, ladies and gentlemen, is DeVante Parker. Now, DeVante Parker is one that the Miami Dolphins, in terms of fans, have not really liked in recent years. He hasn't been living up to the production or the hype that many expected him to live up to. With his first round pick out of Louisville. A lot of people really liked him. I'm one of them who thought the pick was a slam dunk pick. One that, although we did not need a wide receiver at the time, was definitely one where, okay, we now have acquired a number one receiver. As most of you know, Jarvis Landry is a slot receiver, so he's not really known to be that number one and play on the outside. So finally now we have this guy who's tall, who can catch, red zone threat. Finally, we have this guy as a replacement of Brandon Marshall, and we hadn't had that guy since Brandon Marshall, and before that you could kind of argue we hadn't had that guy since maybe Chris Chambers. Even then, it's like the Dolphins haven't had that deep threat, red zone threat type of guy for a long time. So this one for many fans is very interesting because although they like to, a lot of fans really don't like DeVante Parker. They think that he complains too much. They think that he's always lying about his ankle injuries. They think everything from the sun to the moon, back to earth, everything. They just do not like DeVante Parker. They don't like his work ethic. They don't like his play on the field. They don't like how every offseason it's, wow, man, DeVante Parker's had an outstanding offseason. Then when it comes into the games, it's like nothing was there. And it's unfortunate for a lot of Miami Dolphins fans because for us, we saw him as a guy that was going to produce, a guy that was going to be that main man. If you live in Miami, there's always the commercial, my main man, Anthony Caliendo, whatever the hell it is. Like, we just thought he was going to be the main guy. We thought that DeVante Parker was going to be it for the Miami Dolphins. And so far he hasn't been. And he's going into his contract year, a year where the Dolphins are going to have to decide if they want to put a fifth year, option on him so that they have him for at least the next 2 years, and then decide from there. And, we all thought that we would see the ascension of DeVante Parker from this year, as it was known probably since before even the end of last season, that the Miami Dolphins were probably not going to keep Jarvis Landry considering the money that he wants. And so it's very interesting. And when you get into the whole logistics of it, obviously it's not a re-sign. It's not a walk. It has to be, if you're going to give an option, it has to be a trade. And a lot of fans want that. I mean, when you look at both sides of it, if you want to look at the trade side and then play devil's advocate, we can do that here. You look at the trade side of it. A lot of people think that you can get some compensation from him out of a team that thinks that they can, tap into that untapped potential. So you'd probably maybe get around a third or a fourth for his untapped potential, or maybe even a second from a team that is needy from that. And then you could possibly look at acquiring maybe 2 wide receivers in the offseason, which would be what the Miami Dolphins would have to do. I mean, you'd have to acquire someone to replace Jarvis Landry. A lot of people have talked about Allen Robinson as a possible replacement, seeing as if the Jaguars may not re-sign him considering their wide receiver depth. And so you'd have to now find 2. You wouldn't have to only find 1. And, you could probably get that. You could probably get decent compensation for a guy like DeVante Parker if you wanted to trade him during the offseason when the new fiscal year for the NFL starts on March 1st. But then there is what you can really tap into and really dive into and think about that makes more sense, which is to keep DeVante Parker. Now, although a lot of fans will probably not like this opinion, not like this take, they'll think it's kind of cold, not very like a hot take. Keeping DeVante Parker is the most logical thing to do right now. Trading a guy with potential that he has and the flashes we've seen, and I mean, towards the end of the latter half, like I guess you could say towards the end of the year, we started to see a little more of him with Jay Cutler. It kind of like, not really in terms of he looked great, but you were starting to see some of the things that he could do and his potential, and you saw it. And if he can finally get over that hump, maybe he needs to go work out with Chad Johnson over the offseason. But if he can finally get over that hump, he can possibly turn into something very good or possibly great for the Miami Dolphins. And with that potential, with that, need at wide receiver, which is going to be a need once the offseason starts, the Dolphins are going to have to look that way. They're going to have to try to see what they can do there. So, look, you have to keep DeVante Parker. There are no ifs, ands, or buts. To trade him right now is, you're not even, first of all, trading him at his peak, so you're not going to get peak value if you want to trade him. And on top of that, you have a guy with that potential. It makes more sense to keep him. Now, pretty long video just to explain that, but there you go. In terms of resign, walk, or trade, I'm pretty sure in the Kiko I said to keep. I might have said trade, but in this one I'm also going to say keep. Your best option right now is trade. So if we want to go by the format of the video, you got to say trade. But if I had to give an honest opinion of what the Dolphins should do, in my expert opinion, it would be to keep DeVante Parker and maybe trade him if he's at a peak value sometime before the trade deadline or anywhere along those lines. But right now, you do not trade DeVante Parker. Hope you guys did very much enjoy this video. Make sure you guys subscribe up below. We hit 700 subscribers a couple days ago. Road to 1,000 by March 5th. I will see you guys next time. And as always, peace.